We're live.
Okay, awesome. Then good morning and good afternoon, depending on where everybody is tuning in. Welcome to the Creative Insiders special dedicated to International Women's Day, which is next week on the 8th. And we are going to talk with 5 really inspiring and great women today that we had the pleasure of having guests on the TCI podcast. And one of them is with us already, Tiana Z. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah. But later in the day, we will also be talking to Saili Sawantt, Neha Sarudin, Victoria Millentrop, and Elizabeth Steinberg. So yeah, why don't we get started here? We're also streaming on Twitter. So if you want to tune out and do an audio only, the Twitter link is in the bio. And yeah, thanks for being here. Tiana, welcome back.
I was looking forward to this. I really enjoyed
I'm so happy.
The first time we talked, and I hope that it will be as interesting as today.
We hope so too. And actually, we're pretty sure it will be, because Georgi and I keep talking about this a lot, that it's very difficult to get women on the podcast. And we keep getting feedback, you should bring more women on. And Georgi has been saying that it's so difficult to get everybody on. So we wanted to really take this opportunity to get you guys back and get your opinions on also what is happening in the industry concerning not only women's rights, but also what the mood is like, what challenges are still being worked through and stuff like that. So I think this is a great opportunity. And also this is why I'm joining as well. I'm usually behind the camera. I'm usually not in there live. So yeah.
Do you like the new role on the camera?
I do. I mean, I have to say I do this in my own profession quite a lot, workshopping and moderating, but I think it's nice to do projects where you're not in your element and where you do different things. And for TCI, for me, it's really about helping and supporting, and not leading. So it's kind of nice.
But in terms of equality, you get to be here today like this.
I think this made more sense to have a woman speaking to women, but I think this is also a great topic. I think when we're talking about equality and equity, I think a lot has to do with getting both perspectives all the time. So this is why it was really important for us to have Georgi in the conversation as well, and not just for me, because you have to have each perspective at the table, not only when men are in the room talking about women's rights, but also when women are in the room talking about women's rights.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I always say. I think it's not that common, but I think that men should also talk about this, because if only women talk about the women rights, I mean, we're talking to ourselves, and it really.
I wanted to add something that. First of all, I wanted to do this because, unfortunately, when we did the episode number 100, not always I have the time to organize things very well. So everything was done a little bit last minute, and at the end of the day, ended up being just a stream made only by men. But it wasn't intentional. Yeah. It was just that all the girls again were busy, and so I said to everyone, because I got messages from different guests, and then I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I know it came across completely wrong. And I knew since then that I'm going to find the right moment to organize something where I spotlight again only the girls or the women that have been on the podcast. I think the beautiful part of the Creative Insider is that you guys are from so many places around the world. So for me, it will be interesting to understand how different geographical area perceive this issue. And also, when I brainstormed with Desiree together, I had more the classic approach to the topic. And she said, why don't we approach it in a way, positive way, that we start with something that has done already and that is better, and see what is to be done ahead. And as a man, for me, it's important to bring the guys on board too, because at the end of the day, they have to change their mindset if it's needed. And especially as someone that's online and follows what's happening online, I hate figures like Andrew Tate and all these people that are so controversial, especially because even if you're a guy, you might have a daughter or your wife or your mother. So, I mean, it's not that it's completely a women issue or a man issue. It's like, I mean, we are a society made of men, women, and all kind of diversity. So we have to live together and understand each other. So that was the whole idea.
Yeah,
I love that the factor of diversity in your podcast. You always have like some interesting guests, and always from all around the world, and always with different points of view. I always like to hear what other people think about the same topics. I was looking forward to this because I thought we will all be together today, so I will get to see and hear other guests, but I will be here for a whole day hearing them as well.
Yeah, and you're welcome to join the other sessions as well. But let's dive into your point of view, because this is the whole point of this, that we don't just talk about what Georgi and I think, but we actually create a space where we have different perspectives on one huge topic, which is, it's actually not women's equality anymore. It's about equity, which maybe I can explain briefly, because the terms mean two different things. Equity means the same opportunities for everybody, which is different to equality. So yeah, just for anybody listening, if there's confusion there, equity is a really very semantic word. But yeah, Tiana, so you're a teaching assistant and you're doing your PhD in architecture. So you're not only in architecture, which is a very conservative field from what I still experience from the outside looking into your industry, but you're also in the academic industry. So those are two places that are probably fraught with needs things to change. Tell me about what you have been seeing over the past few years, how the topic of equality or equity that has been going on globally, especially where you're in Serbia, you're tuning in from Serbia. How has that impacted your everyday in those two industries, academia and architecture?
Well, I have started working relatively. I've been on my university for like a year and a half, so I didn't have much time to see what happens. But from what I know from before, we have a lot more female professors and assistants than male. And ooh, I know this may sound weird, but I think that there's no such problem at our university. I mean, in terms of equality, when it comes to equity, I think that women's rights aren't the same as men. For example, if the man is in charge and then women has to do something, we often get much harder assignments or much wider or bigger teams that we have to go through, because it is considered that women are more likely to do more work, or that we don't find it that hard, or because we do at our university, probably, I don't know if that's true for the rest of the world, but women tend to do things on time. And then men are a bit late and a bit lazy. And then even with students, when I work with them, there's always groups with boys and girls. And then girls do all the time management, all the assignments, all the talking. And then boys are here to say, oh, well, this is okay, this is not okay. It's quite rare to see a man being a leader of that kind of group.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And also, we have 300 students on each year. And I think like 80, maybe 90% of those are female women.
Okay. So, so it's really about, what you're saying is there are I'm going to say traditional, in quotes, roles of men taking more a leadership characteristic in them, and women more a, managing characteristics. Yeah. I mean, if we look at it from a behavior, from the stereotypical men and women behavior types. Interesting. Yeah, but do you think or why do you think that is? Do you have like an idea? Is it our society that still really propagates those stereotype behaviors, or is it something else?
I mean that must have that might also be true, but I think that women let men do these kinds of things. If we did not let them, I mean, for example, in group projects, if we didn't do anything, they would have to do something, I mean, for the project to be done. And we're used to it, and we just accept the fact that we have to do it all, or to position ourselves in that matter, or behave that way. I was just talking to my friend yesterday. She came from New York, and she said, "Oh, how men are different here. They always have something to tell us about our behavior, about our appearances. Like men in US don't do that in such way." And I say, "Well, that's Serbia, you know."
So it's cultural too, yeah.
Men are used to having like strong opinions here, if I can say so.
Yeah, no, I think culture has a lot to do with it too. And I think that's what I observe as well. It's like if you're in America or if you're in Western Europe, it's a lot more, I think because a lot of the companies go through the training of, okay, you have to be very aware of how you say and what you do, especially also in terms of diversity, but also in terms of women. I think there is a difference still to Eastern Europe from what I hear and what you're saying right now. So culture is an aspect, yeah. But what about your personal experiences in your own career journey?
Well, I've been working in corporate businesses, like in architecture before, and I think there's a bigger problem there than in the academic society, because here we only have like a list of things we have to do, and then if you do it, there's no way someone's gonna tell you you're not eligible for a job or writing a paper or anything. At least I have not been in that position. But before, when I worked in groups of many people, we were like 100 of us, and then you could always feel that the men had leading role, and that their word was it had weight in comparison to the women's opinions and words. And I would say that at the university, as I'm a student now on my PhD, and as the teaching assistant, I have not been in a position that some men would get bigger credits than me for the same work we did or anything like that. But before, it happened.
I have a question. You've been also a teaching assistant when you teach to your students, or when you have taught to your students. Is there a different perception sometimes from guys that are learning, or you haven't felt that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, now that you've asked, yes, the guys always tend to have that funny like I didn't do my homework, but maybe I can do it for the next week, and then with laughing and things, and then from the women you cannot expect that.
So there's more seriousness for most women, and men are, at least at that age, still very nonchalant in a way.
Yes, they're younger than me. I think 4 or 5 years younger than me, but the men, the boys are always more going for the jokes, or just trying to see how far can they go without working and with just being flirty or whatever they think that is.
Okay, the life of the party.
Yeah, the life of the party.
That's interesting. Well, what about, so you said before that in corporate architecture, it's much more about, or it's less structured in terms of what position you earn or how you get it than in academia.
Yes,
is this something? Sorry.
Structured. No, I'm sorry.
Is that something you consider very positive that you would like to see more in architecture. Do you think that would even work in a corporate capitalistic frame compared to academia?
I mean, I don't know how can we value the work in architecture, the work we do, because in academia you have strict points for what you do. If you write a paper, that's like 20 points, and then you go to conference, that's like 10 points. I mean, it's not in points, but as you would imagine. And in corporate world, I don't know how would you make a system that allows us to like give grades or points to someone and then let them climb on the ladder, or I don't know if if the value of the women's work and men's work would be valued the same if we're doing the same thing. Oh, Georgi, we're alone now.
Okay, sorry, I'm back.
Hi.
Hey, our first technical screw up. We got that over. The rest of it is fine. I'm so sorry. I didn't hear your answer. But I did hear that it's difficult to see how you can value it in corporate. That's the last thing I heard.
Yes, I don't know if the work of men and women would be valued the same, because in academic world it doesn't matter who you are; it just matters what you made, what you did, and then I don't know how can we weigh the work in corporate dimensions. I mean, if I do modeling and you do something else, that doesn't weigh the same. How are we gonna make the system of worth? Or there will always be someone who feels left out, or that he did a lot of work and it was not appreciated that much.
I think by coming by a similar culture like Bulgaria, and then moving here and then exploring around the world, I think that as you said, it's very difficult to achieve complete equality and equity because I mean there is not only the difference between men and women, but there are many other factors, right? Sometimes men that are same age, same more or less experience, can be different character and get more money or come ahead. So that's very individualistic. But I think that in general, what it should be done from this perspective, also from an entrepreneurial perspective, is that there should be a little bit more social state intervention, so to say, in a sense that, I don't know, if a woman gets pregnant, or that it's not defined that she should be the one going home taking care of the kids, or as soon as it's not like physically needed, and should be like a fair maternity leave and things like that. In my opinion, that's the only factor that could be a little bit driving for entrepreneurs, because I think from the point of view of the entrepreneur that if they have to compete already in an open market and there is no the right politics in place, for example, I'm speaking for Bulgaria, that maternity leave, it's not as good as, I don't know, maybe in Germany or in Scandinavia. And in the meanwhile, there are a lot of very, how do you say, motivated people, especially younger people, because due to the recent transition in Bulgaria, for example, from communism to the European Union and so on, everybody's pushing to, improve their lifestyle and stuff like that. So if you don't put in place politics that allow you to, I don't know, take it easy if you want to have a family, both for men and women, that's, I think, a big problem.
I think politics do have a lot to do with it. And I think it's also a very nuanced conversation. Like, I like what you said, Tiana, that it has a lot to do with how do you value what each person is bringing. If you're talking about the free market, you're much more also selling your soft skills. So is this person, for example, if you go, I'm going to say traditional up the ladder and you become a project leader, you have to have completely different soft skill set than if you're just doing a CG animation all the time and just on the animation side, as an example. So I think it's really hard to, and this is probably why the whole conversation about equal opportunities and rights for everybody, not just women, is so difficult, because how do I say that my skill, I'm better at interpersonal team leadership than you are? Who judges that? And according to what are the things to check off? So
Absolutely. Yeah, and I also think that I am fully aware that some people are very talented or have strong work routines or can do a lot of work, quality work, or whatever we say that is, or however we value it. But on the other hand, they're not interested in leading a team. They're not interested in developing those skills for the managing or team leading or anything. And I'm okay with that, because they obviously don't want that kind of responsibility. And I don't think that those should be equal to those people who don't want to give their time to work or draw or render anything or whatever they do. But on the other hand, they have the skills to lead the team or to motivate others, and they should only do that kind of job. And I think that should not depend on if you are a woman or a man, only if you have the required skills for both jobs.
But then I wonder, and it all comes down, if we're going to follow this discussion, it all comes down to the bias, and that we're not aware that, for example, if Fred sits in front of me and Fred is great at, let's say, team leadership, and Jane sits in front of me, I'm Desiree, I'm a woman, I have a different bias than maybe a man who would be hiring them or something. So I think, I don't know, it's very complicated. I think the issue is very complicated. That's why every year, to be honest, every year I'm back and forth if we need an International Women's Day or not. I'm going to be a little provocative here. Because on the one hand, I think we should have that discussion every day. And on the other hand, I think, yes, maybe we need one day a year, just like we need one day a year or a month a year where we talk about different genders in general, to highlight these issues and bring them forth.
I understand.
I have a question. I have a question also regarding this, that it's connected to what Desiree asked, because I was really curious to, as I said in the beginning, to try to make it a little bit more positive and not like on the blame game. I wanted to ask you how it's in Serbia the last few years. What is this topic also in general very discussed in the public realm, whether on media or among people? And what is the approach to the topic, like how it is discussed from the population? Because I know that having a background myself, an international background, I know how it's discussed in different countries, at least 3. So I'm curious how it is there.
Well, we are getting better at it. I don't know if that's because I started working and I'm interested in those types of teams. Maybe before I wasn't, how can I say? When I was a student, I didn't feel I had different rights than male students or anybody, or maybe I was just ignorant. I don't know. But I didn't really read about those things, or the team didn't interest me. And now I'm starting to see that a lot of our small brands or organizations are trying to work towards the higher goal and are talking about it. And I'm happy to hear that we are searching for we're trying to make a better place for us to live. And what makes me happy is that there are not many, how can I say, organizations or media ads or anything that make one specific kind of people strong, or that want to advertise that kind of, for example, let's talk about pregnant women, or let's do this for them. It's all about giving the same type of how can I say that? We're just talking about equality for everybody, for every kind of women, for every age, for all kinds of work. We're not making a specific form in which we're gonna, let's say, fight or do whatever. And I'm happy about it. And I think that this shouldn't be called International Women's Day, because why are we like hating men? I just want that. I just want all of us to have equal rights, and then maybe a international day for equality can also be okay if we all agree on something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have to separate the day being like, I think it's different than what it was many years ago. Many years ago, it was really about feeling powerful as a woman and really stepping up. And I think now it's more like, okay, this day is about awareness, to bring it up onto the global scene very, very strongly once a year, but it has to happen every single day. So I think it's less about feeling powerful, but more about this is still an issue and a lot still needs to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think
I
that
agree with that.
me being here, the backup host, I was in the background researching a little bit about the International Women's Day, and I think because it started in 1910, back then the women's rights were approached in a completely different way. So it was started. Many countries didn't. For example, the inequality back in the days was much larger than it's nowadays. So because women didn't have many rights yet in many countries, like the right to vote, and for example, in Italy, I think only in the 60s or in 70s there was the right for women to vote, and there was no right to, for example, get a divorce. So the world was a way different place back in the day. So I think as we evolve as a society, or that's the interesting part, right? Because in the different parts of the world, we still have different kind of inequalities, and I think that's very interesting to me, exactly, to speak to different people from different parts of the world, to understand also what is their view on the topic, and not being, we have our own perception maybe, but doesn't mean that it's the right one, and with that we have to impose it on other cultures. And it's interesting to understand how they view the world. So I think maybe we can change it. I think it's a good point that you said, to make it like the International Equity Day, or because in the end of the day it's about equity, not equality, because equity, it's more like having the same opportunities, right? It's exactly what you said. And it I don't know, inequality can come from also, I don't know, different social layers. If you are, for example, coming from a very, very poor social layer, and you're still a very smart person, but you don't have the money to get an education, and you don't there is not a system that can give you an opportunity, then the problem, it's not only dependent on men and women.
But it's not only that. It's not only if you come from a different social or financial background. I think it has a lot to do. There are some cases where also it's about if you're an international, if you're coming from abroad, or if you're a migrant. In Europe, we had that huge crisis many years ago, and there were very qualified people coming into Germany who were not German. They were I don't know, Syrian or something, and they were much more qualified than others, and there was not much equal opportunity there because of that reason. So I think it also has a lot to do with cultures blending within one country. That still does take place a little.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. But again, I'm curious exactly what is the general approach, for example, of men to women in Serbia, like, in the different cultures, there's whether a macho or not macho, I don't know, culture, which I think is very wrong to, base your, I don't, this is very probably animal kind of approach it's our animal brain to approach things to be just brute force. But I think it's also a matter of education, for example, by having grown in a household where, I don't know, my father never, I don't know. Of course, you have two different figures in your family, like your mother and your father. They have a different approach to you, and you go to them for different things. That's, I think, normal. But it never felt like, for me personally, I never perceived that my father was this figure that. It's how do you say, the boss, and he decides everything, and it's felt like they're like rather partners and contributing to the same cause. But I know that it's not the general culture. This year, because I hear my voice back, or no, maybe it's Tiana. I don't know, when you don't talk, if you can mute your microphone. Yeah, so I was curious, what is the general? Oh, she left again. What is the general perception to this? How do men approach? What is the, like, in the younger generation, especially? Is this also a little bit flattened, that guys don't think, I'm a guy, I'm a better guy, so you women shut up, you don't know shit?
Yeah, well, that used to be practice in Serbia, I think. And also, I think that today there's only two kinds of women. I mean, men are the same. They're a bit softer than they used to be. But the two types of women, there's one that doesn't take those kind of comments, and then everybody's afraid of her. And she's above the guys and the girls and everybody. And then the other one who is afraid to talk or to say anything out loud, and she just hears what they have to say and does what's expected from her. And I think that is a problem. I think that this is the group of people we should pay attention to, the ones that are quiet. There was an ad yesterday I saw, and I really liked it. The illustrator from Serbia made it for the 8th of March, and it's like the newspaper, the illustration of the newspaper, and it said, thank you for the 20% discount for the 8th of March, but I would prefer if you wouldn't be quiet when someone beats a woman. And that's like, well, what it's just
very direct.
yeah. But it's meant to be in Serbia's newspaper. I
No,
mean,
but it's a problem that's everywhere. Also, especially during the pandemic, was a big problem when there were lockdowns and things.
Yeah. But this thing really inspired me. I was really moved by that illustration.
I think sometimes it does need to be a little more cross in some way. So, yeah.
On the other hand, I have to say my anecdotal experience at work is that sometimes, I'm a very unagreeable character with things that I don't like. That's despite if you're a man or a woman, if you are like doing something unfair, or if it's wrong, or I really tend to be very, fighting back. And sometimes I have talked to, like, we are a team maybe of subordinates, and I don't agree with the boss, or the boss, it's really, I don't know, I really go into a big discussion. And then I've talked many times to the girls in my team, and I'd be like, why do you accept this um, we shouldn't be agreeing on this. And many times I hear exactly these words: what you gonna do about it? He's just the way he is. Or, so there is this not everyone, of course, it's not a general rule, but like maybe the majority are more of women are more agreeable for whatever reason. They tend to be, I don't know, a little bit, I don't know if shy is the right word, but agreeable. Like they tend to be like, okay, let's be diplomatic. Maybe diplomatic. It's so sometimes maybe diplomacy is not the best thing. And yeah, I would, as a guy, I always like try to invite people to be disagreeable. Also, because if you don't speak for yourself, don't stand for yourself, things gonna get worse. So I think it's very important to learn that. And that's also part of the education. If I have to say it's something of the education that's wrong, is that you shouldn't be educated to be always agreeable to every injustice. And by that, I don't mean you have to turn into a real, I don't know, savage or something, that you constantly disagree with everything and everyone, but that at least you have your red lines, so to say.
But do you think you would act the same if you were a woman?
I think it's a matter of education. Like if I don't know, when I was a kid, I was used to hear these things. Like certain parents will tell the girls, you have to get very well, you have to get educated at school, you have to be good. But some parents would always say something like, in the matter of, yeah, but for a woman, it's also very important to find the right husband and stuff like that. So, like if you, what we are, I think or what I feel for myself is that a lot of my personality, it's made based on what I was educated as a guy and what you see. Maybe if you see your father beating your mother, it's automatically normal for you that that's something that's okay, or something that can happen. So I think if the only way I approach this problem, if not anything else, is I always imagine if I have a daughter. So if I have a daughter, I would never educate her to be compliant and to be reliable on her husband or stuff like that. I would tell her you have to be the best version of yourself. And this is something that I hate so much about this guy Andrew Tate, because a lot of very famous people, some that I follow too, like Joe Rogan, say, yeah, but he says a lot of right things, but he says a bunch of very, very wrong things. Like he's used to say, I don't know, that for a man, life is very hard because, I don't know, it's very hard to go and be on a party in Dubai on a yacht. Meanwhile, for a woman, it's very easy, because if she's pretty and if she's well dressed, she's automatically, easy to join. But I want to add to this, it's not only about joining, it's about on which term you join. So I think for a woman, it's maybe still much more difficult to be seen for her talent than like for her, um, external, yeah, appearance. So I think it's so toxic to say this shit, like I hate it. Because I imagine if I have a daughter, I don't want my daughter to go to a party to Dubai because she's dressed like a slut. Like that's so toxic. Or to say something like, yeah, you have to tell your woman she should cook for you, because if somebody breaks in the house, who's gonna go fight the people that are breaking in? I'm like, this is cherry picking. Like there are women in Ukraine right now who are fighting on the front. And I'm pretty sure that if the person breaking in is a woman with a gun and she shot you in the face, no matter how strong of a guy is, you're gonna die and bleed on the floor. So, so I really, what I wanted to, like, from my point of view, is that once you go too much in one extreme, you lose me. Like, the point is not to go in the extremes, because we live together. As everybody have a boyfriend or a father, or in the case of guys, maybe a girlfriend, mother. So you have to relate with the other people in some way. And it's so bad to be to be in one extreme or the other. And that's why it's important to speak on these topics in the right way so that you can bring on board many people. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's why I said I was happy earlier, because we weren't choosing sides, if I can say so. And that's why I don't think I agree with those types of things at workplaces. For example, we have to have 50% of women employed. I don't know, maybe you can have 70% of women employed. Who does the better work? I mean, if men do better the things you're doing, why would you employ women? Why would I feel hard and not like my job only because I'm a woman and I have to feel your 50%?
Yeah, I generally agree with that too. On the other hand, I have to say that we have to start somewhere fighting those biases that we have. And I think like 50% quota is not the solution, but that's one little step towards the end solution, which is skill is going to be the qualification and not gender. But for me also, it was very hard for years to say, oh, okay. In Germany, for example, the whole quota of board members, more female board members, it's been a really hot and serious discussion for years now. But I think you have to see it as not the end goal, but just one little stepping stone. And to be honest, and to fight those, I mean, what it comes down to, also what you said, Georgi, it's biases. It's our intrinsic biases, because we are human and we decide to fall into those biases on a regular basis. We have to fight that in some way before we can gain, I'm going to call it gender enlightenment or something like that. But we have to take it one step at a time. And then for that, I think the quota is important. And then when we've reached the point where we say, okay, we're at 50%, hopefully very soon, then we can say, okay, now let's take the next step. What does it mean equality for everybody and not just women, or not just people with different genders or whatever? It's like we have to take it step by step.
Having quotas is kind of tricky. Go ahead, Tiana, then I'm going to say my opinion.
Sorry, I wanted just to say that you're right. I know. That's because we had the situation in Serbia where women who are like 26, 7 years old have hard time finding a job, because everybody thinks, oh, she's going to get pregnant soon, or she will get married soon, and she will have the maternity leave. And what will I do when she leaves the company? And such idiotic things. I mean, on one hand, how can you know if I even want to have a family, for example? Or on the other hand, do you really want to judge me on the fact that I need some time to leave, like to leave my job for 9 months or whatever?
Yeah.
And then the quotas, the 50-50, I think in those situations we have to have some things like that. But in general, I'm mad that we're only talking about women being equal to men, and then in some parts of that equation we lose men. And sometimes I think that women start to be too feministic, if I can say so, and then we're hating on men and we want 100% women companies. And I have seen a lot of ads saying we're women only company, or we're this or that, and I don't think that's like compliment. Why are you women?
Yeah.
So I wanted just to add to the topic with the quotas that there is, coming from a country that was a communist country with quotas in everything, that can go very slippery slope downwards, because people start playing on this quotas game. So it's again like the goal will be to get the right connection so that you could be put in the list of quotas. So for me as a person, I think my personal opinion is that it should be really worked politically and culturally on eliminate these misconceptions, as Tiana was saying, that if you hire a woman, she will get pregnant and she'll leave. And the thing is that the funniest thing, it's a few years ago there was a video leaked on one conference about women entrepreneurs, and one of the industrial owner, a lady in Italy, she was a woman, and she said that she wouldn't hire a woman for exactly that reason, and that was the problem. So for as an entrepreneur, if you have like, it's easy to speak when you don't have a company, but if you have a company and this company is always on the verge of, I don't know, failing, or if it's in the verge of competition, those are questions that you might ask yourself. That doesn't mean that, I don't know, I don't think you shouldn't hire a woman that might get pregnant or something like that, but the politics should, first of all, at school should be started to be approached in a different way, and then politics also should provide the entrepreneur with the tools to not to worry if somebody decides. And again, in Scandinavia, for example, they have equal parental leave. You can, I mean, of course, I always say the woman will have to leave for a certain amount of months, no matter what happens. But you have to, provide that person. It's provided with salary or something like that comes from the taxpayers if it's needed for 5-6 months, and then it should be the decision again to the individuals to decide if they go back to work as soon as possible because they're highly motivated. And I think you can see this sort of pattern also in the highest level, like figures that are women that have gotten super higher in the hierarchy of something, like here in Germany, Merkel didn't have any kids, or Lagarde didn't have any kids, because maybe they were hustling to get up the chain of command. And I don't know, for example, von der Leyen, who is the president of the EU Commission, she has a lot of kids, but she's super rich. So, I mean, you have to look for patterns and try to work on, I don't know, I see it that way, that you should work on that weak points that wouldn't allow a person to have equality and equity.
But that's exactly the things. Like, for example, von der Leyen, let's keep that example. We have a few politicians here in Germany that have 4, 5, 6 kids, which is a lot. And they work full-time in politics, and their husbands are stay-at-home dads. And the backlash towards that, again, we have the bias towards some kind of stereotypical characteristic is very bad. But I'm going to wrap up the conversation about the stay-at-home dad and stay-at-home mom, or in general, having kids in the career. And because we've touched on a few subjects, Tiana, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think needs to change, like in the next few years, and what would be examples of that? It's like, because we talked about values, we talked about roles in culture as well, which has a lot to do with the society. We talked about the checklist of academia versus corporate architecture. Yeah. What do you think some of the things are that need to be tackled?
Well, I think women shouldn't be too afraid to speak up. That we, especially the group I said earlier, that tends to be quiet or agreeing, as Georgi said. I also think that in these organizations where we empower women or talk about the equality, we also have to encourage men to talk about it, because we cannot achieve equality if only we talk about it. I think that if we want to be equal and have the same equity, we have to agree on it. The both sides have to agree, and there's no such thing as a judge standing like on the side, and we have to make him believe. We all have to believe it in order to achieve the goal. And also, as I said, I don't think the goal is for women. Is just that we have the same opportunities, and we're viewed the same as the men. We are viewed throughout the skills, through our work, through the time we put into the work, and I think that would make world, at least work world, a better place.
Have you ever thought about what that could look like to make that possible?
You mean, what can we do to make it possible?
Yeah, to have that both views. Do you think it should be something like, I don't know, if we're talking about corporate architecture, the hiring circle is made up of XYZ persons or something like that?
Well, not. I only think that there should be a place to talk openly, to talk inside of the company, because I cannot fix the problems, or, for example, your company. I don't know what the problems are. The beginning of the problem, that very small things that you feel hurt when happen, or something like that. Only the people from the inside can work on that. And I think that communication is a great start. I think that being able to talk openly is a great start, and also having maybe types like group chats where you can explain why you feel such way, or I don't know, a day in a month where we talk about it, or something like that, or even group meetings. Or I think that communication is key, and you have to fix it in every place for itself. I don't think there's a unique solving kit for everybody.
Yeah. It's just about providing the space to voice something. Yeah. Yeah, I think that can be really tricky, especially with that group. I like the separation between the people, or the women also, that are characteristically more outspoken, and those that are characteristically, we'll use Georgi's word, agreeable. And I think there's nothing wrong with both, but especially with people that are shy or don't want to rock the boat in a big group, it's really about providing some kind of space or platform or medium or whatever to have a voice.
Yeah, that's why
and to be taken seriously.
Yes, well. Yes. And it doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl, or if you're just working on drawings or doing renders, or if you're a manager or if you're a CEO. It doesn't matter. You're just one person there. Everybody should be looked at as a person, just like that. And all voices should be the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's matter, I think.
It's going to be very difficult, but we are probably on a good way.
We are closer than we were a few years ago.
I want to say I follow this one guy. He's an Italian guy that lives in Zurich, and he's like a former software engineer in Google. And because you can imagine, for example, when you are in that area, not every single person that works at the company is extremely outgoing, or not competitive in the sense to be like super pushy. So, for example, Google has a system that they evaluate you on a, I think, 6 months base, your work. There's some sort of scores you can hit or not hit. And the system is made in such a way that even if you don't go and ask for a promotion, you get automatically promoted. After, I don't know, 6 times you hit your target or you overperformed, they have some sort of performance evaluation system. I don't know. They go ahead. Just they come to you and say like, well, now you have to be engineer level 3 instead of 2, or 4 instead of. So I think that would be also a very good system to consider, because that would help, as I said, for example, introvert people or more agreeable people to be pushed somehow to, again, or they have to at least really reject it because they don't want it. Like they have to be like, no, really don't promote me because I want to be this level, which I don't think at Google is possible. But I mean, that's also a system. When people say it's hard, you can always say it's hard, but you can think about design models that can solve this problem.
But I think that's an extreme, though, because promotion, there are different ways of promoting. You can promote salary, you can promote rank, you can promote, I don't know, in a different way. And from what I understand, that's coupling salary and rank. And I know a lot of people, and Tiana, you said this as well, that they don't necessarily want to have more responsibility. They want to be an expert in their field. They don't want to be a manager because there are different career paths. And I think that then alienates a certain group of people. And I think especially introverts might become more stressed because they suddenly have more responsibility or need to start going to conferences and giving speeches, or I don't know what, or be go-to for a client or something. I think it's more about finding what works for your team, your company, your organization, your institution, or whatever, and making sure that, I don't know, that there's enough choice. Because for me, equity, it's opportunity, but it's also the choice to choose which opportunity I want. And I think that choice, I think in the future, and it's already today, it's going to be so difficult for companies and groups and institutions to create a space where everybody feels comfortable. And I think in the end, they're going to have to decide, how do we want to lead our business or our organization? And what kind of people do we want there? And some people just won't fit in then, maybe. I don't know, maybe that's a discussion that we need to have as organizations as well.
I agree.
Because it's going to be complicated. It's like, I can't make a space where every single one feels good. But I think, and when coming back to International Women's Day now, because we're way out on the outskirts of that, I think it's creating that dialogue, not just between women, but also involving men, involving all people that have a share in this matter, to really discuss what that space needs to look like and to start designing it more intentionally. Yeah.
I agree. Absolutely.
God, I would be so stressed if every 6 months, if I'm graded. But I think some companies need that. Some companies are so free from telling their employees their expectations. It's sort of like, yeah.
Yeah, but the communication is key, I think.
Yeah, that's another thing that resonated with me that you said, the communication. That's the trickiest part. It's very important.
Yes. Not only talking, but also listening.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, people in Serbia tend to have that problem. We always like talking, I don't feel like doing this, I don't feel like doing this. And then they never, for example, if I have problems doing something and I'm telling that to my manager, I think that he as a person should also have a problem with that, because the work is not getting done. He's the manager or she's the manager. And it's also okay for them to have the problem with it, but I should also be able to listen, and we should be able to communicate the both ways. Not only should I say that I have a problem, but I also have responsibilities.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. Georgi, you want to add something to that, wrapping up?
Yes,
as our quota male.
No, I wanted just to add that our next guest, Saili, is already in the waiting room. So I'm waiting for you I'm waiting for your instructions, Desiree.
I can't see. The problem is I can't see the waiting room.
Exactly. That's why I'm telling you.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you, Tiana? Would you like to stay a little bit?
There she is.
Hi.
Hi.
I would like
Tiana.
to know, and then I can tell Georgi if I want to join again.
You don't have to tell me. You just click on the same link if you want to join. So.
Okay.
And I can add you to the I'll see that you're in the waiting room, and I'll just add you to the conversation. I'll let know Desiree. I'll ask for permission.
Thank you so much, Tiana. That was very, very insightful.
Thank you.
And it was nice seeing you again and talking to you again, also to catch up with what has been going on and so on.
Thank you for inviting me, and I hope we will have a chance to talk again soon.
For sure.
Definitely. Have a great afternoon, and maybe see you later.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Saili, welcome.
I was just listening to all of your conversation, and I think there's so many different perspectives, and I really loved listening to the whole thing. So yeah, happy to be here.
Very, very big welcome. Before we start, I want to say quick what you do. So where are you dialing in from, by the way?
I am dialing in from India, and I'm an
Okay.
architectural writer and strategist. I am an architect by profession, and I chose to do none of it and just, break through and do something else and support the industry. So, architectural writing and strategy is something that I handle for different studios and brands. So, yeah, that's pretty much about it.
That's a very interesting mix too, because we just had from Tiana architecture and academia. With you, its strategy has to do with the communications and marketing industry and architecture.
Yeah.
How do you feel that? Let's start with our deep dive. Our first question with women's equity, women's place, women's role in both of those industries. How are they similar or do they differ in any way? What are your experiences?
I would say that the architecture community is far narrow minded in comparison to the marketing and communication industry. They're very, very accepting. I have been working with travel and e commerce brands as well. And there is no such thing that, okay, can she handle the work? Can you do this? And as Tiana would have opposed, but I have an all women's team. So I also kind of receive that heat a lot of times. It's not direct, but it comes around indirectly. There's also one thing that I work in India, and many of the architects in the head position are men. And the big firms that, the guys in the big leagues that I try to approach and have a conversation with, most of them are men. So there are situations where I have a lot of friction, and there's a lot of convincing that needs to happen, because if they are the big guys, they're obviously older, so they have hesitation in terms of that, the gender hesitation and the age hesitation as well, that you're so young and you're a woman. So those are two big pillars that I have to regularly combat. And I can say that uh, when I started with a company called Godrej, and it's one of the biggest companies in our country. And they have very good policies that I think today they are a 50-50 ratio, women and men. That is what they've always tried to do. And I kind of grew up around women in leadership roles, right from my internship. So there, such things didn't exist. Women were very outspoken. They had a command over what they were speaking. But so on a smaller level, I never really observed it. So recently, I think 2 years back, when we were working on a conference for architecture, and there were many people who were speakers, and I was speaking to them. They were going to speak for that conference. So there was Sumita Sinha, who is a part of the Reba, and she's done fabulous work. She is, I think, a practitioner, and also she does a lot of research in her field. There was Geeta Balkrishnan, who is also running ACEDGE, which is an she's the founder, she's a women founder running an educational platform. And there was Martha Stewart from Australia. Everyone's aware about, what Martha has done and everything. So all these women were discussing on their level, which is way, way higher than mine, that, how we face bias, there's pay parity, this and that. Then Naresh Narasimhan, who is an architect in India, and he from Venkataram Associates. It's a very big firm. So he kind of asked me, because I was the youngest in that conversation, and he said that, Saili, do you think women are paid less here in architecture? My answer to that, a very naive version of mine, was that I think everyone is paid less in architecture. It's not about, women or men.
Okay.
It's just like everyone is. But as I started my freelancing business, I started approaching the big guys that now I was talking about. I faced that friction, that, can you handle it? And it never came from women CEOs. Women CEOs used to just, be like, we know you got this, just do it. They won't even bother, or they won't micromanage or anything. But the men have received quite that a lot.
But do you feel that it's different? So you do feel that it's a gender and an age thing compared to somebody that's also freelancing that's maybe a male in your age?
Yeah. Actually, in my industry, particularly architectural journalism, I have seen a lot of women take it up, writing and design and everything. I don't know why there are not many men. So for every 10 applications that I received to work in my team, I think 8 of them are women. That's the ratio.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also somewhere started feeling really bad that, why am I having an all women's team? I should be more, inclusive as as a business. And I did have a few male recruits, but the experience was not the same. The way Tiana talked about
Hmm.
how her students, it was the same year in terms of women are very like, if something has to be sent 5th March, 12 p.m., it will be there. But men, I see that they have started working on the documents around 11 a.m. or something like that.
Oh,
So, yeah.
okay. Well, I wonder if that's also because you're a young female leader and boss in that sense. Because
Yeah.
I myself, I started taking manager positions really early on, and I also encountered a lot of bias because I was a woman, and then I was a woman that was young and looked young. So it was also very,
Yeah.
very difficult in that sense. And I wonder if that's also the dynamic that maybe in 20 years that you'll have male colleagues that you hire that will, I don't know, be younger, and then they will see, oh, okay, well, she's obviously been in the industry longer. But I think that's one of the issues, though, too, is to say, okay, why does a 30-year-old guy entrepreneur get a VC investment, just as an example, and then a 30-year-old woman is sort of like,
Maybe not.
maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the thing is that I'm 25 now. So most of the people that I have in my team are either of my age group or they are 2 years younger. Some of them are even 5 to 6 years older, having a kid, married, and everything. So I think the age factor also comes into the picture. It kind of runs the way you said that there's a lot of friction. You get friction from the people who are trying to recruit you, and at the same time from your own team members that, oh, she's so
Mm.
young. Why should we listen to her? But I think it's not about the age, it's about the fact that you can do this irrespective of the age. So I it's kind of a both kind of a situation where it comes from both ends. But I have never really seen it. I've never really experienced any kind of bias in terms of age from women. So I'm working with Aka, I've worked with Sarah and everyone, Sarah Kolata and everyone. The thing is, they are so supportive. They are almost, in their late 30s or in their late 50s. They never question that. That's the thing. I mean, even women my age. So I haven't really felt that bias coming from my superior seniors who are women, but I've kind of felt it from the men because I think, I don't know, it's some ego issue maybe,
Mm.
but that kind of a thing. But there was this one conversation that I had with a 75-year-old architect. He has been running a firm in Mumbai for 6 decades now. So they have literally
Wow.
seen, just imagine, a top firm for 6 decades. So they have seen it all. They have seen all the downfalls and everything. And he told me one thing while we were having an interview. He said that you women in this era are really lucky and never consider the opportunities, like never take anything for granted, because it's a privilege. Like, consider it as a privilege that you're getting all these opportunities, because back in the day women had to really battle. I mean, in India, I think the first architectural firm founded by a woman was around 1975, if I'm not wrong. I'll have to come back to it, but Sheila Sri Prakash was one architect who founded that firm. And it's quite late, architecture is centuries old. I mean,
Mm.
it's there in India for so long, but imagine a firm being opening in the late 1970s. So how crazy is that? So that's when he told me that you have to treat everything as an opportunity. Be very grateful, because there have been so many women before who have, paved the path, especially in such a male centric industry like architecture.
I
How
have a
did you
question.
feel hearing? Wait, Georgi, Maya, how did you feel hearing that? I would be so interested.
I first felt that when he was speaking, saying all this, I felt that, okay, maybe it comes from an egoistic approach, because, even there are so much heat we receive in daily life. You feel that every man wants to challenge you, but it's a surprise when someone so senior has such an open mindset. So first I was a bit hesitant, but when I actually reflected it upon, I was quite offended actually. But when I reflected it on 2 3 days later, I realized that he's actually, I mean, he makes sense. Because before, I mean, you're especially in India, I still see that the society I belong to, it's pretty, like everyone's developed, has an open mindset and everything. But if, for example, my maid, in their lives, that bias is still there. Nothing's changed. They still face that in their daily lives. So I kind of got offended, but when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, this person does make sense. We have that privilege, and we need to kind of use it now.
Yeah. Yeah, I asked because so I grew up in the States, and if I would have heard that, when I hear it's you should consider it a privilege, my first reaction would be like you said, I'm offended. Like how dare you? And I think one of the things that you said just now is super important. That it's about the context. You have to reflect on it, and the cultural context and the social context in India and in every country is different. And in the case of India, it was really, you have to see it as a context. It still is a privilege. I mean, it sucks that it still is considered a privilege, but it's that stepping stone towards it. So that's why I was asking, because my first reaction would be like, excuse me.
Yeah, that
Georgi,
is exactly my face.
Yeah. Georgi, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask something. My question that was also for Tiana before, because I think it's very interesting to me to use the opportunity that we are talking to people from different areas of the world to ask how is generally the presence of this topic in the public realm in India, and also what is the approach towards it from the male side of the population and from the female side of the population. Is it rather something that it's becoming big topic, or is it more like you said, sort of optional discussion because women just have to be happy that things has gotten better?
Yeah. So I think the best part that is happening in the last 2 years, when we consider events and architecture shows, is that if you notice, before all the events that happen in India, if you had 6 panel members, 5 of them or 6 of them would be men, in that panel, discussing about smart cities and future of architecture, this and that, this material. However, I can see now that there are many women in the marketing and communication space. There are many women in who are leading these award shows, who are co-founders of these award shows, that they are leading by example, by saying that, we will not have a panel if 50% of them are not women in it. Even you have to find them. And the thing is, they, most of them have, like, there's Apura Bosdatta, with whom I was working for an event, and she was very persistent with the sponsors, and the people in the management, that this panel will only happen when, at least if there are 6 members, we need to have at least 2 women. And if we have 5 women, that's great, but we didn't really find those, because I think women in leadership roles are also very less in my country. If you still notice that there are a lot of women, I mean, if you see a batch of architecture school, there will be like a 60-40, 50-50. My own batch had a 60-40 ratio, where 60 were women and 40 were men. But sadly, when we go to the leadership role, basically, even the lower strata of people, you could be like the carpenters or someone who's working at site, they don't really take women that seriously. And then I have heard from lots and lots of women, that we kind of send the men forward, because that's when these people start taking us seriously. So I think now it is changing, where these award shows and expos are also raising that awareness that women need to be in the picture, and they don't just need to talk about the interior design or the pretty things and everything. They are pretty much voicing equally on business of architecture. They're talking about city level planning, everything. So now it's happening, but it's still a very, very long way to go.
Yeah, no, my question was more like on the not only industry concern, but also like in the news, in the papers, also like by having your friends and community, because now we have we've been living in this globalized world in a certain period of time, which is quite long, and through the internet realm, every single thing that go viral everywhere, right? So my question was like, if it's really like big if there are some bigger communities or bigger activist groups in India that are really like, this is our biggest issue, or if it's still like, because I know in some countries it's more like, yeah, as you said, that exact approach, like it's been worse, so be happy that it's not that bad anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember any such particular groups as yet, but I would definitely say that in comparison to the other countries, if you see the Council of Architecture, which we have, as per the statistics, we have a good ratio of men and women who are architects and designers and in the industry. So it's not really that bad. At the same time, there is a certain amount of awareness that is coming into these local and handicraft brands, who kind of want to represent Indian culture in a very new way on a global level. So there are brands like Jaipur Rugs and Cocoon Rugs. There's so many brands that are helping people from the lower strata, especially the women, to help them get work, use their skills into creating products for them, and they're doing on a very legit and a good positive level where everyone is well credited and given their due. So that, I would say that it's not extremely that bad, as I know of, but it's not that we need to kind of just raise our voice, get on the streets or anything like that, but because daily I can see that there's so many things happening in the community because there are more and more women coming in leadership roles.
Why do you think there has been that change, that surge into taking those leadership positions? Because you just said that sometimes the women would send the men because, to just not make it that stressful that you're not getting taken seriously. What do you think has changed?
I think we're just angry now. And I
Okay.
think most of the women I think most of the women are realizing their potential, and I genuinely feel that, I mean, I sorry Georgi, but I genuinely feel that women are much better multitaskers, and they're just realizing that we can have a home, we can have a child, a husband, and we can have a good job and excel in each of these factors, because when I have conversation with my friends overseas, I kind of feel that it's there. I mean, there it's more. I mean, I recently heard a conversation where one of the person said that I was when I had a child, I was not given the promotion. I was kind of told to sit in the managerial position because now how will she handle executive level job if she has a child? But I don't think here it is there as of now that I have seen, because women are just more, I would say, they are hardworking and they're just speaking out that, I deserve this chance and I kind of deserve to have this particular opportunity. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting the word you said, angry.
But
I think, yeah.
I have a question too, because I want to ask. You mentioned women are better multitasker. Is
Here
there
comes
like
the rebuttal.
no,
Stuck
no.
with him.
Like generally,
Well, that's why we have both perspectives here, men and women.
no. Generally, I guess I agree. Because the thing is, I wanted to ask if there is this culture still that sometimes is not that maybe women are better multitasker, but sometimes also that men just push the task on the women. So I wanted to ask if there is still the general culture. I don't know that guys in the Indian culture. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you if they have the culture of saying, I don't know, certain tasks are for women, like cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, or it's also shifted that, I don't know. With me personally, I think that of course you have to share all the tasks also that are not only work concerned but household and stuff like that. Maybe not always equally because guys are maybe not so skilled, and sometimes women get just annoyed at how they do things. But I'm just asking, what is the approach on the topic?
Yeah. So I genuinely feel that in the cosmopolitan cities, or the cities where, that they're more developed, they have a better institutional landscape and everything. I think those cosmopolitan cities, I can say that 80% of men are quite, broad. I won't say broad minded, but they're just more open to this, that it's going to be an equal marriage or an equal relationship, because they themselves have lived apart from their family home. Here the culture is that we kind of live with our parents till we get married. That is like, the typical culture that's there here. So unlike the West, where you kind of branch out quite early in your life. So the men who have chosen to kind of, just live in another city because they have a job in other city, and they have kind of took care of a household, are very open minded. But when it comes down to the cities, the tier 2 cities or the tier 3 cities, where the awareness is not reached, it is the same. I mean, there the roles are still the same, that a man does this, a woman does that. And I think there is a certain amount of trademark, like a stamp being put on you as well, that if you are a woman in a this kind of a background and you're trying to dream or have a career, you are being treated as the rebel. You're termed like that, that oh, she's such a rebellious person to have her dreams and everything. And the same thing applies to the fact that there is a certain amount of mindset that once you get married, you have to have a child immediately. And that still has been happening in my friends' lives. Like recently, I kind of had, she shared me a story, and I was just like, this, does this still happen? So it's still a very long battle, I think, in my particular country, I would say.
What are the you said before you have various support groups. That's what I heard, that you have a very strong support system with other female entrepreneurs or professional women. And we've heard a lot about you saying that there are conferences being organized, and there's a lot of activity and activism going on in terms of, I'm going to call it, in the business world, not activism as in necessarily movements, but activism in business. What do you see needs to happen in your industry or in your country in general to even further that along even more?
God. I think women just need to, I mean, I used to first feel that conferences, or even us chatting like this, or summits, only those will create change. I had that thought that only something at that big level can happen. But when I started developing my team, I noticed that one person was married, had a child, another was just in a marriage and wanted to move to another country because her husband was, two, three of them had just passed out. One of them didn't have a father, so she was supporting the whole house on her own. That's when I realized that nobody needs to really empower on a global level. If you have the access, good enough, but you can just empower 5 6 women that are directly in your access. You can just work hard. Like if I am running a freelance business and I have an all women's team, and I have a personal one-on-one, where it's not like I'm their friend, I'm still their boss, but I know what's happening in their lives. So it's my responsibility to make sure that I can provide them opportunities for them to grow. I can give them that financial freedom. I cannot fix their problem, but I think this is something I am seeing in a lot of women run businesses. It could be within the AEC industry, and women are really, I mean, I feel that women leaders were, under whom I also work, they're very, they're caretakers in nature. I think women, they're very caring. So they want to know that, they take care of you. I think I've never felt that with a male boss or something like that, but they're really
Yeah,
like,
that's
okay,
true.
what happened to your dad or something.
Well,
They're very
that might come
concerned there.
across wrong. If your boss sees a
No.
male and take care too much of you, that can come across very
Okay,
wrong.
I'll give you the comic bonus on that one.
Yeah, it's just like, they kind of asked that recently my father had an eye surgery. So then this, my boss, who's extremely busy, the first thing when she called, she's like, how's your dad, is he okay, should we discuss this, is later okay, that kind of a thing. And I feel that we don't need any big level things happening if on a smaller level everyone tries to inspire at least, empower at least 5 6 people, or 5 6 women around them.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I totally agree with that. I think even it needs both. You need the global attention to give it sort of like that strength, but you do need the local impact, and that can be very, very. I like the way you say five or six. Pick five or six or two or three or 10 people that you say you want to build a relationship with, and you want to help them or help each other, which goes a little to the support groups that you had mentioned. Like, how do we help each other, not just I want to say on social media by posting some kind of profile picture next week on Wednesday, or is it Wednesday? I think it is. Yeah. How do we help each other during the entire year and actually make the whole International Women's Day topics and really part of daily life? I mean, before with Tiana, we had spoken about culture and having the need to be in politics, but I like what you're saying, that it also has to be rooted in our everyday practices as well, to how we lead, how we support each other. And I think
Yeah,
you're right.
I
That
mean,
is a
and
very
before,
woman thing to do.
yeah, and before I used to be like, why is the government not looking after it? Why are these summit really not discussing this topic? Why is this event not covering enough women? And later, as I grew slightly older in the industry, I understood that it's fine. Everybody can do something on their level. You can't just sit idle and be like, it's the big guys' work. They have all the resources. We are the small ones. They need to take care of us. It's not like, it's just that, you're around you. Are you creating that environment? And if that's done, it's still a win. It's the way they say for recycling and how to save the environment. You try to take care of your home. The government can take care of the world, but are you taking care of your house first?
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that that's one of the things that definitely needs to happen more for any topic around women or equal opportunity to really be fruitful in the future?
Yeah, for sure. Because I feel that in my entire journey, all the women that have been there in my life, they've really pushed me, that you can do this, you got this. And we haven't even met once. It has only been through online interactions and that kind of support. I think we can together, we need to also not just empower but create opportunities. For example, one of my client, I just recently told her that this has happened, I'm having a bit of a financial thing and everything, I'm looking for clients and everything. I think within 2 days she just came up with a solution. She was like, this friend needs that friend needs this, go talk to them. So I feel that even that is important for us to actually not just empower but do small things which can be helpful to somebody else, just that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the little things with the most power. Yeah. Before we had talking about the male perspective and including men in the conversation as well. How do you see that happening in India or in your industry, both industries in India at the moment? What are your experiences? Is that a topic or is it on the horizon?
I feel the men who are in leadership roles, when I don't say that, when I say leadership, it's not like you're the leader of a big company or anything, but just small things. If you have a small startup, if you're working on something on your own, they are more open to these kind of conversations because they have been open to different kinds of perspectives in their journey of building that business, is what I've observed. This is especially for um, the under 35 to 40 age group. I mean, met I won't say that all men are bad, because I've met many supportive men in my whole journey, where they have been like, yeah, we agree with your point, go for it, this and that. But it is still missing, as I said, in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, where there is, I would say, a lack of education. And maybe a lack of, there's a certain amount of rigidness, that
Mhm.
we know what's right. This You're young, you're coming up with new ideas, that doesn't mean you're right. And I kind of see that because in India, the your parents have a lot of impact over your life for a considerable amount of time. Overseas it's usually let go after a certain point, but here the parents are the parents. So I feel that even if the child has an open mindset and he comes with certain thoughts that, this is what I think, this is where we are going, there's a lot of friction that that person has to go through. And still people are rebelling, as I put it that way. Here it's seen as rebellion, but still people are rebelling, trying to, put across this communication that this is not how the world works. It's 50-50. A house, it's okay. Like, I can be, and at the same time, the way Tiana had mentioned about stay-at-home dads,
Mm.
here the judgment you get if you're a stay-at-home dad, it's just the women are, they start feeling very bad that, oh my god, am I doing something wrong? And then the men are judged heavily, so there's a lot of judgment that still needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I feel that that's a global issue too, though. I mean, in Germany as well, and definitely in the States. I mean, I think in the States it's a little more polarized, but yeah, there's so much stereotype and judgment around that. Yeah.
But as a man, I don't think so. That, for example, like now here, I have to speak out of my man voice that it maybe in the past, or particularly coming from an Eastern European country, particularly in Germany or in I don't know, in the States. I've never been there, but there's generally in the States the social how do you say, the social side of the government is not so present in any any way. But here in Germany, I don't know, almost if not 100%, but 90% of the guys that have a kid, they live on parenthood for at least a couple of months because I think it's about
But
the
sorry,
thing.
but that's a difference between being a stay-at-home dad for a couple of years and actually taking that role and taking parental leave. We're talking about actually being the woman
Yeah.
has the full-time job and you're I don't know, maybe you have a part-time position where you're in the office only 2 days a week or something
Well,
for
look,
multiple years.
we are architects, so generally speaking, here in Frankfurt, the women earn more because they work in other fields like pharmacy, banking, finance. So I don't think it's about, for example, for me personally, it wouldn't be about. Oh, let me go to work because I gotta hustle and I gotta work. It's more about like, okay, who is making more money? Let's decide what is better for the family. And if it happens to be the woman, come on, bring it on. I'm staying home and going out with a stroller and having coffee and having fun. So it's like I wouldn't feel stigmatized, like, but I feel I like to have these conversations with you and with people that are from different parts of the world, because I have the feeling that the conversation has this general conversation I speak, especially the one coming from the States, has become sort of an imposition of a certain way to do things. Like we have to bring women back to work and men have to stay home. It's very individual. Maybe you're a woman that doesn't want to go back to work and you want to spend time with your kids, or maybe I'm a guy that have no whatsoever will to go back to work and compete and stuff like that. So I don't want to, like, it's not like a rule, black or white. As I said, I think it's more about this equity, about giving the opportunity. And I think that we are a little privileged here in Germany in particular, because there are so many opportunities to have parental leave, also for guys. And in other countries, like even Italy, you don't have that kind of opportunity, or maybe in Bulgaria, but not even at that level. So I think it's, me personally as a guy, I see it as who's gonna bring more money. And if you live, of course, in a country where men earn more, then it becomes a circle of like same spiral. You're going down the same spiral.
But I think that's the issue, who earns more. And that would be, I mean, that's another topic. I know in Germany, they have a equal gender pay gap day, or I don't know what that holiday is called. I think it's in November, to decrease the pay disparity between men and women. But in many countries, that is still a topic. Saili, what does it look like in India? Is there a gender pay gap? Is it a big discussion point? Is it taken as a given? What is happening in that aspect?
Honestly, it's not. I mean, I have, or maybe I am too blind to notice that, but I haven't really seen a lot of conversation happening here on pay parity in comparison to, overseas or, any other country. I kind of spoke about this to a lot of my overseas friends as well, and they said that here it is very much prevalent, like in the UK or something like that. But honestly, here that's not there. I genuinely feel that I've seen women really come up in leadership roles, demand, ask for it, upskill, and be more persistent about it. So I haven't yet noticed something like this, but I do agree with Georgie's explanation that it all comes down to who earns more. Then it's a relation through relationship kind of a solution to come up with that. Let's let it be about equity, as you mentioned, that let it be about the opportunity and not the gender attached to that. However, coming back to your question, I haven't really, honestly, I haven't seen many people complaining about the fact that, oh, I'm a woman, that's why I'm paid less. Here it's more about everyone's kind of paid less in architecture, if I can still, stay put on that thing. Yeah.
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 How is it in marketing and communications? Because I know there, at least from Europe, but you mentioned this already, that's an industry where there's a lot of difference between men and women, not at the beginning of the career necessarily, but when it comes to leadership positions, and especially when it comes to pay then. How is it in India there?
I think I would like to comment on only the freelancing part because that's the terrain that I've seen, and I haven't really seen the job market as yet. We haven't had that kind of conversations. But in freelancing, honestly, I have seen women making six-figure businesses, having, like there's Vanshika Mehta, Kumala Ahuja, so many people, they are doing such a fine job that they have literally, like, there's Komal Ahuja, who's one person working in content. She pretty much sponsored her own masters, and she's now in the UK upskilling more, and she's running her own business, taking courses and everything. I genuinely feel that here now, and I'm proud to say that, because in freelancing mainly it all comes down to how you're presenting yourself, what's your strategy, are you actually doing the work. And strangely, I have seen in many companies that women are preferred because they feel that we are more sincere. Sorry, Georgie, but I feel we are. I mean, kind of, in my team as well, I see that women are.
In which way sincere, you mean?
Just the fact that the timelines, and in my team, I would say that the deadlines are really followed through. They're very detail oriented. Like my entire team, I can vouch for that and say that they're very detail oriented. If I give them six instructions, that none of them would be missed. But with men that I've had in my group, they have this own interpretation that, okay, these are the instructions, this is my version, let me write my version and send it across. And when you read the copy, you just see that, you see that that particular thing has not been followed. So yeah,
This is
I would speak.
exactly this is exactly like the household.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting though, because Tiana said something very similar, and you're saying that as well. And every time I hear it now, and it's come up a few times, I have to think about it myself. And I don't know, I wonder where that comes from. I wonder really if it has to do with like men learning to do things differently, like to fulfill tasks differently, or if it's an unconscious rebellion against a woman being in a leadership position telling me to do it,
No,
or well, you don't know. It's like
I can tell you from
it
my
can have
perspective.
different roots though. I mean, there are so many possibilities.
Okay, I can
Maybe
tell my
men do tasks
perspective.
differently.
I
I
can
don't
tell
know.
you my perspective, maybe. So I
Please.
think again, I think we're less compliant. So, for example, we are more like I use this word. We're more cocky. So maybe we'll do the task in a shittier way than it was supposed to be done. And then when we present it, no matter if it's a woman, like I talk for myself, if it's a client that it's a male, because I interact also with superior males. If they tell you, I don't know. Oh, this wasn't done so well, you'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I've done it perfectly. And then you start fighting back for what you have done. When it comes up a relationship, that it's not a work relationship, but I don't know, with your partner, like you say, is it okay how I done it? Are you happy with my task? That's a different thing. But in the realm of what is it called? It's a matter of being a little bit humble, like if I think, and that's what I say, that in general, I guess women are more humble, and that's why they put extra work, and they really are pushing themselves to do a better job because they're more humble. It's about being humble, I think.
But I wonder where that comes from. And maybe this is just me going down the rabbit hole, but I wonder if it's because we are taught to be that way. You say compliant. We've had this conversation before about agreeable or diplomatic. We said before women are more diplomatic. But I wonder if it's because we're taught to be that way in the way we're raised. I mean, women are. There's this study that was done over many decades that women are taught to play dolls at home, and to find a common agreement point, and everybody has the same tea, and every doll sits at a round table, and men are play soccer, which has a key team captain, and where you have to do your play. And I wonder if that has some aspect to do with that we just have a different work ethic.
But in the States, for example, playing soccer is considered a girls' game. So I think it's you can.
No, not when you're a kid. You play football and soccer. No, let's not open the whole soccer, football, Europe discussion.
from the chat is coming the suggestion, as I said, that women are more agreeable than men. But I said again, I think it's also.
We say it in a bad way, though. Why are we doing that? I feel like we're gonna. I think that's very.
But it's not
I like
bad.
your word sincere. I like the word sincere. I think that has a nice.
I don't think
more, like in the Indian context, is that we've grown up around women who, like our moms, for example, they were not working moms, if I can put it that way. The large set of it was always that stereotype that the father is the bread earner, the women takes care of the house. So many of the families that I know, of my friends and people I know, we've seen that having a lack of financial freedom puts a stop to a lot of brave decision making. So now women are being more like this, like in spite of being agreeable, they're still somewhere like, I have to do this for my own self. I need some money in the bank account that can help me, when things get rough, it can help me financially. So I feel that zest and that level of discomfort and resilience and all together makes us more agreeable, or makes us more sincere, I would say. Because as I told you, my team members, there's one person who has a child, and she said that, I have a child, I have a good family, but I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this because I need to have money under my name. And out of the 6-7 people that I have in my team, 3-4 of them have the same opinion, that we are married, we have a husband who makes like 4 times 5 times than us, but we are doing this for ourselves. We don't want to ask our husband that I need this bag, or some are just doing for their vanity, like I like this bag and I want to buy it, let me just make some money. So I think there is, and at the same time, some women have dealt with financial instability so early in their life that they never want that to come surface again. So I feel that that's why. And at the same time, men, especially in India, they especially the moms and the men, they are being grown up in a way that you're a son, everything is fine, everything will be taken care of, it's fine, you're a son, that kind of a thing. So it's still there in many Indian families even today. So men are conditioned that no matter what, we will be taken care of. So I think that's where the laid back attitude comes in, especially what I've seen around me. I mean, yeah.
Why don't you comment on that?
It's so funny to hear this because, for example, I come from a culture in Bulgaria where you as a man, you're told that as a man, you have to provide for the family, and you're like kind of pushed to forced to earn more than your partner, so that your partner can, like, it's like a sort of a and that's something that's not been told to me by my father or grandparent, but by grandmother and mother. Like they're like, you're a man, you gotta provide for your family, you have to be strong, and if you complain, shut up and keep going. So it's like that's why it's so interesting to hear different cultures. So that
it's that nuance.
and in the meanwhile, Italy has that a little bit more. In Italy, like your Italian mom, it's gonna be like, "Oh, good morning, dear. I have made cappuccino and breakfast for you," and wake
It's the
up, and
same here,
then
by the way.
and, if you move out of home before you're 40, it's very early. What are you doing? So
Yeah. I mean, we women also need to rethink now, this generation, if we have to be mothers, how are we going to deal with this situation? Because I see that,
Yeah. That's no pressure at all. No pressure at all. No, but it does. It's a huge pressure on us. And I've actually had that thought as well. It's like, how would I raise, if I had a son or a daughter, how would I raise them? And oh my God, what are all the things I could be doing wrong that then they don't turn up the way I want them to? Or what values do I want to instill in them? And how do I instill those values? It's so much.
I think everyone is at some point of time worried about the same thing. Like some of my friends have now started having kids, and I see the kind of tension that they have because they have grown up with a certain mother, certain kind of philosophies that their parents have shared, parenting and everything, and they have also created a list that if I'm a mother, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm not going to do. So there's like a to-do list everyone has made. And I somewhere feel that the men cannot be the only ones to be blamed for the laid backness and everything. I think it also has to do with the parenting. It also has to do with that narcissistic, I would say, and that ability to not really outgrow that mindset. Like I think this idea is really stale. Let's just put it aside, let's see what's going on, and let me adapt and evolve my opinion. I think many of men and women, I would say, are very rigid on that matter. And when that rigidity gets instilled in a family, I think it's very hard to change that, especially when the way Georgi said, Italian moms and Indian parents. It's just very like a very close knit kind of an overpowering situation here. Yeah.
But then I think days like we had it before International Women's Day, do we really need that? Do we need an International Equality Day? Well, then we do need one of those days or more to really create that awareness so that people begin doing the introspection process of saying, okay, where is my behavior coming from? And we had it when we were talking about with Tiana, we had about bias. It's like, what bias am I perpetuating through the way I'm acting with my partner and my newborn right now, in whichever case. Yeah.
I think the fact that, every year there's Women's Day, I keep on asking all my friends, I keep on asking my clients also who are women, it's like, what do you think? And everyone has one opinion. Like, why are we still celebrating it? And then I heard, everyone's like that, because the kind of group that I talk to, we are all educated and empowered, doing our own thing. But then one perspective that I recently heard from a friend, and she said that, we belong to a certain educational background, family. So that's why we are so progressing. And now we have progressed. We have put this mindset in our parents' head that I am going to work equally as a man, I'm going to earn equally to a man, even more or less, whatever. But it's still not there in so many stratas that are below us. So she said that I think we can only stop celebrating Women's Day once it reaches every single strata, when that awareness is there everywhere. And we're just, it comes down to equity, as you mentioned. When it comes down to equity, that's when I think we can actually stop celebrating, or talking about equality.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good. What do you think needs to still happen so that is possible, so that it reaches all those levels?
I think the best, as I told you earlier, that whoever's around you, try to change that. Don't wait for the world to kind of create a shift. Don't wait for laws. I mean, I was just talking to one client, she's from Riyadh, and she is a female as we put it, female entrepreneur, head of an architectural firm in Riyadh. And, she was kind of talking about the kind of backlashes, the kind of struggle she has in going to board meetings and convincing to the clients that, I am a serious architect. I can create a whole township. I have the skills and everything. So, the way we talk about it, I asked her that, Shah, what is the solution? She said that you cannot change the rules. I live in a rigid country. I cannot change the country. I'm not so powerful, but I can change people around me. I can adapt my team. I can make my team progressive. I can be twice as resilient and twice as persistent, that, I deserve this. And she has got some of the bestest works to, in Riyadh. And she's one of the few people. I mean, I told her that after seeing the condition there, I feel that my country is far more, open minded about these
Mm.
things. And still I while talking to you, I say that there is so much rigidity, this and that. So I feel that on your level, you need to actively do this. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be like, oh, you're a man, you're this, you're that. But it's like, as a woman, are you just helping someone else making that change? If you're doing that, that's enough. That slowly it's going to reach out to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how you're saying that. And it goes back to what you said before also, like make a small impact with the people around you. I like that.
Yeah,
We have from our YouTube chat, orthodox is rigidity, intelligence is adaptability.
that's quite
Interesting.
cool.
Yeah, I think we
The-
have to take that with us. I like that too.
that might be that's someone connecting. I guess she's called Jagruti or Jagruti. I think that's an Indian name.
Jagruti. Yeah, Jagruti Jadhav.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
we
very
have
good.
definitely interesting contributions from the chat.
Did you want to
And
add something? Oh, sorry, go on. Yeah, I had a lag.
No, I agree also with that thing. That I mean, I think that the most important thing is to have some balance between what is orthodox and what is progressive, so to say. Because again, I'm not a person that goes too much in one direction or the other. I think that the more you come far from the center, the more you find, in the end of the day, you have to find a dialogue. It was like, I remember, for example, when here in Germany, we had a pandemic and there was we had to wear masks everywhere, right? So there were certain people that wouldn't want to wear masks. So once we were in the underground, and one woman went to a guy who wasn't wearing a mask, and she said, "You have to fucking wear a mask," blah blah blah. And that guy responded, "Shut up, it's not your business." So if you approach the people in this way, you'll never find a dialogue. To maybe if you go to this guy and say, "Hello, sir, sorry, I'm a little scared, and I have, I don't know, a sick person at home, and would you be so kind? I know it's annoying for everyone to wear a mask. Could you wear a mask, please?" I would be very thankful. Probably the guy wouldn't have say, "Shut up, it's not your business." He would have, maybe he is a jerk, I don't know, but at least you have tried in the right way. So I think it's important when you have these conversations to try to understand and listen back, instead of, I don't know, coming with your solutions in a pocket that might not be even the good solutions for a certain part of the women's community, let's say.
Yeah.
Do you
Okay.
think, Georgie, I want his opinion, that do you think, are we doing too much, like women? Are we talking a lot about this? I mean, I really want to hear about your opinion.
No, I that's why I wanted to organize this live stream to hear, to understand. I think there are certain women that go too far. Like, I think there are certain feminists that go too far, and they lose me, because I'm like, come on. Like, I don't like when we say, like, I like the word equity. I don't want us to consider men and women the same, because we're not the same, but not in a negative way. Like, we have differences that, as I said, we have a mom and a dad, or parents, and they approach us in two different ways. And if you have both figures Even if you're a guy or girl, you'll go to your mom for certain things and to your dad for other things, and that's because they're different in a positive way. And sometimes you need uh, your mom to tell you some hard stuff, and then sometimes you need your dad to tell you hard stuff, or you need the love of one or the other. And then in the same way, we all have some sort of a we try to find our own mate that has his own sides that complements us. There are all these cliches about how men are dirty or women are annoying, like dirty in a sense like they don't clean at home. That's what I meant. Yeah, but that's balance, right? So we balance each other. And I think that if one community, as the female community, has certain itches that has to be solved, or certain feeling of inequality, it has to be discussed. But with everything can go too far, right? It can go like toxic masculinity, patriarchal, I don't know, society. Come on, it's not that way. It's not like that. I don't know. It's not on a mass level. And once you extremize the problem, you don't do anything positive for the real problem, because people become
Alienated.
they become alienated. And yeah, like we have different we have some difference, like we have some differences. That doesn't mean, I don't know, there are so many movements that support diversity, right? And when it comes to men and women, then we have to suddenly be the same. But we're not the same. We have different biology slightly, like, and again, this is not said in a negative way. I mean,
I mean, we're physically
whoever
different, like we have a different physique, and if somebody's telling me that I can, as a man, I can lift 50 kg of weight in 2 seconds. I cannot do that. I'm 40 kgs firstly, and at the same time, we are physically different. But it's just about the fact that if there is a certain capability or opportunity, why can't it be equally open? Like equity, as you said, that it's about the
exactly.
opportunity. It's physically we're made very different. So, and that doesn't mean that what there is still some things that a man can do or which a woman can't, and why. But I think, yeah, I do agree with you, and that some kind of seen some women take it too far, as if they use feminism or something as a armory to kind of argue anything and everything. And I think that is also a bad thing. But if there's something good coming out of it, I think that's kind of great.
Yeah, you need those extremes to a little bit push the envelope, but you need also then it's they balance each other's out, but they make it too extreme, in my opinion, and they're always the loudest, right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't like when you say it's slightly something different than what is their opinion, that they start I don't know, defining you as toxic masculine figure, or you want to keep the patriarchat and all these things that, in my opinion, come mainly from the States, and then they quickly transfer to Europe, and then they go global sometimes. And that's why,
Yeah.
for me, it was really, really, like, it's fundamental to hear. And that's not only about on this topic, that's on every topic that we discuss on this podcast, to hear the different cultures, the different opinions, because I don't think that we can talk here about, I don't know, if we were to sit me, Desiree, and someone else that's from Europe talking about India and how wrong stuff are in India about certain topics. We don't know because we're not from there. So we want to hear the voices from there. And I think also here in the chat, they say, like, both men have to deserve equal treatment. That means what we're trying to do here is to bring up this topic and say, if you're a man, you shouldn't be like you shouldn't feel like you have to be more compliant with women. you should just take also a step back, and when you have this instinct of maybe thinking, oh, she's stupid because she's a woman, then no, she's not stupid. Maybe she's stupid just because she's stupid, but not because like every individual, a guy can be a jerk. Everyone can be a jerk. I'm not saying, but it's not based on not based on gender. It's like I say, you have to consider. For me, there are two kind of people in the world: the cool people and the jerks, and it can everything else can be very different envelope.
Yeah, but we
This
can't
should be turned into
decouple.
a code,
Pardon?
Desiree. This should be a code. If you're stupid, you're stupid. Even the way Jordan said that,
Yeah.
you should probably be like, you're stupid. I love that.
I'm risking a lot here.
But I think it's we do have to keep in mind that gender does influence our character and our personality in a way. So we can't decouple it completely, but I agree with you. You have to judge people and view people on their merits and not necessarily on what's on their birth certificate. And I'm pretty sure that gender fluid roles also would definitely support that view.
But I will ask these questions like that. It's like for you both. Don't you treat people differently? Not only like, for example, if you have a friend that it's in a certain way, and you have another friend that has slightly different character, you don't approach them the same way, right? Because I don't know, for example, you know that one guy, it's like one person, it's a little bit more easily offended, or the other person is a little bit shy, the other person is very outgoing, so maybe you have to push them a little like to make them humble again. So I don't agree that we have to approach we approach people from our same sex and our same gender in a different way based on their character. So if I know that one person likes dark humor, I make dark jokes. But if I know that one person very offended and very sensitive about this topic, I don't have to be always the same guy and approach everybody the same way. So I don't think we can agree on that. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that's what we said before, that every organization, every company, every institution, every person is different. And according to that context and that environment, the topic and topics that are discussed in there have to be adapted to that. And I know, Saili, you said that as well. It's very important to find that degree of adaptation to, as a storyteller, you know this as well, to create that impact. And this was one of my takeaways from the discussion with Tiana, is the need for communication and the need for not only talking, but also listening. And what I loved what you were saying, Saili, was just not looking at it from the big picture, but really having that local, really personal impact, and choosing to support its manifestation on a person-to-person level. I think that was so great, because I think we often forget with all of this International Women's Day and Pay Disparity Day, and I don't know what's it all called, that it's not about the big cause necessarily. It's about what you can do to have an impact, to support that cause for your generation, for future generations, and then hopefully to have a change in your society and in your politics and your country. So I think that was one of the most, that really resonated with me. Yeah. Is there anything you would like to add, Saili? Last words to this very big topic.
Yeah, no, I just want to say one thing, that Desiree, you coming as a woman and everything is fine and everything, but Georgi actually stepping in and being very, fair about it. That is very brave of you, first of all. And at the same time, irrespective of coming here, you were not agreeable of everything, which is also a great host characteristic, I would say, because I really loved the way he was very fair about his opinions, and I really like the balance that he brought in. So yeah, so we need to kind of clap for him as well.
Yes, we do. I totally agree.
Oh, I'm gonna blush now. I'm gonna get all red. Thank you.
Don't worry, the light is drowning that out.
I'll have to turn on the white light more.
No, definitely. But I would like to support that as well, because it's so important to have more than one perspective. And not only as in your perspective, Saili, and mine, but also to have a man's perspective or a completely different perspective of the conversation. And yeah, definitely. That's what I'm doing. Thank you, Saili, for taking the time with us. And it was really great meeting you live for me personally. And it was great that you came back. And feel free to join the other conversations in the afternoon if you would like to contribute, if it's not too late in India, in your time zone. And yeah, thank you for your thoughts. You really inspired us.
Thank you. Bye-bye again. Yeah.
Thank you very
Bye,
much,
Saili.
Saili. Bye-bye. So
Okay.
last words before we finish this first session. The next session is starting at 3 p.m. Central European Time. We will start with
in 3 hours for everybody not wanting to do the math.
3 hours. We'll start with Neha Sadruddin. She's a project BIM manager at Grimshaw in New York, former big star in big New York. And last minute, we had an extra confirmation, as you mentioned before. Victoria Millentrup, also big star from Copenhagen, it's joining the conversation from then the next slot, the hour after Neha, and then we have again, I think, an hour break.
Yes,
and then we'll finish the day with a connection from LA with Elizabeth Steinberg. She is originally from South Africa, but also lived in the UK, now in the States. She's she's a motion graphic designer, worked for very famous brands like Microsoft, Nat Geo. She's also a winner of a Emmy Award for motion graphics. So we'll have very interesting contributions in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And thankfully we have some breaks in between so that me and Desiree can rest and survive.
Talk about all the house chores Georgi was mentioning.
Exactly. So,
what were your favorite? What was most inspiring to you of the last 2 hours? I'm curious.
I think that was very interesting that both Saili and Tiana were more on the position to say we don't want to sort of go into this humiliation mode towards men. They were more like, we want just to be equal and we want to be fair, and then we're happy. Like, and they were more like, I don't know, how do you see this, but they were more like, yeah, let's say they wanted to unify, exactly, like they were, but it's something that came from us. They said it themselves that they don't want to be like pushing down men. They wanted just to have fairness. That's it. So it was I think it was very fresh, and again, I think a lot of the media online tried to create this total, fracture between people, and that's not good, because in the reality, when you talk more deep into the topic, the general opinion might be different. How about you?
So I like the aspect of communication and really having those few people that you support. I think that was really great. What I personally take from this also is that culture is a huge factor in the discussion, be it what the politics are like in your culture, or what the societal values are like. And I think it's really important to remember that when you have those big issues or you have big movements, that you break it down into the local context or the regional context, and how that context informs culture and behavior and bias and everything. And I think that was really important to remember. And I think this made it clear. And I'm really excited to later, the last 3 conversations, because those are, again, from very different regions and global time zones. And yeah, I'm very keen on filling my big context map.
Yeah, it will
Yeah.
be very interesting. Well,
Definitely.
then
So
I think let's wrap it up here. And for everyone, tune in again later.
yes, see you at
in
3.
In 3 hours.
In 3 hours.
2 hours, 50 minutes.
Yes. Thanks for being with us for this first part.
Bye-bye,
See you
everyone.
later.